Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching around the world. Thank you for joining today. My name is Alejandra Horvat, and today I want to share with you my solution to the Excel BI's Power Query Challenge number 77. If you're not familiar with those challenges, they are fantastic. Vijay is the owner of that account, and he posts a challenge every night. You can answer with Excel, Power Query, or any other tool that you have available, or you want to use for those challenges. But during the weekend, Friday and Saturday, or Saturday and Sunday, it has Power Query challenges, which are quite difficult sometimes. So if you haven't seen them yet, I strongly recommend them. I'm going to add the link here in the description of the video so you can take a look and see those challenges. And without further ado, I'm going to start sharing my screen so I can start showing you what the challenge is and how I solved it. And I decided to share that with you today because after I submitted my solution, I started getting a little bit more into one of the functions that I used, and I realized that there is a better way to do it. So that's why I want to share that with you today. So you can see here, this is Excel BI. This is the challenge. This was posted around a week ago or so. And you can solve this challenge, which has a table, which is the string. And this is the result where it says letters and quantity. That is the result that is expected. So we need to generate this table, and we need to add we need to group, let's say, all the letters and get the total amount for the numbers that those letters have. For example, here we have an A8, and we have an A11. So we need to figure out a way to get these two A's in one line, like here, and the total will be 19. So let me go to the left. So I have the tables there. This is the string table, and you can see that there is no consistency on how this information is on every single line. For example, here, the A, there is a space between the A and the 8. But then the next letter, let me make this a little bit bigger. The next letter, the B, in this row, there is no space between the letter and the number, and so on and so forth, right? So here the C has a space, the E has a space, but then later on, there is no spaces, okay? And they are in different rows. The result is grouping everything, or is adding all the numbers that belong to every single letter, and we have the total here, okay? So without further ado, I'm gonna go to the table where it says string. I'm gonna right click, and I'm gonna select get data from table range. I'm gonna select there, click there, and the Power Query editor should open. It's a little bit slow because it's the first time that I'm running it. I just restart my computer, and it takes always a little bit longer than usual the first time that you run your queries. So Control-Shift+ to zoom in, and I have a few answers just in case. But let's see. Let's go with the correct or with the best solution that I found after I submitted my original solution, which is this one. I'm going to show it to you very quickly. And just before that, Raimundo, welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm very glad you are here, and it's my pleasure to share this information with all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Kasim, hello. Thank you for being here. Cheers to Pakistan. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. I think it's the morning out there, right? It's like 6 in the morning or something like that. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So this is my original solution. When I got the source, that is this table, I split that information using the Splitter.SplitTextByCharacterTransition. And this is the first part. This is the first parameter that I need to provide to this function. And this is the second part. This Splitter.Split will return a function, and I'm invoking that function here. I'm going to explain this little step by step, but just want you to see this answer is quite complex, but it worked. So the better solution that I found after is that I can still use that function, but look how easy it is in comparison with the first try that I did, right? So let's go step by step, and let me bring some documentation from Microsoft so we can see the Splitter split text by character transition. And as I said, this is going to return a function. Let's go to the syntax here. Oh, I think I did it too big. So here we have the splitter, open parentheses, and this is going to have two parameters. The first parameter will be before as any non-null and after as any non-null. So I'm not allowed to provide nulls as part of the parameters. I need to provide anything that has value. It's not going to set me the absence of value, okay? And the result of this, as I said, is going to be a function. So the description is that returns a function that splits text into a list of text according to a transition from one kind of character to another. We have letters and we have numbers. So we have that, right? And the before and after parameters can either be a list of characters or a function that takes a character and returns true or false. Okay, and here we have a quick example. Here we have the characters in one list, which could be A to Z in uppercase, A to Z in lowercase, and the second parameter is 0 to 9. And if we invoke this function into this text, ABC 1, 2, 3, then we will have two columns, one with the ABC and the other one with the 1, 2, 3, or we will have two items, right? Instead of one text, we're going to have two, instead, one with the letters and one with the numbers. That's perfect, okay? So let's go and see my first solution. And the split portion, this is what I did. I got one portion for the Splitter.Split text by character transition. I got that first character that is going to return me a false or a true. And the second parameter is the letters from A to Z. Here I have prepared in my next query, what do I get if I have only this portion of that that portion, or if I have only a portion of that function, it gives me the truth. The truth is the result that I'm getting from this portion. Okay, if you remember, the documentation says that these parameters can be list of items or it can be true or false. And that's what this is giving me, is one true and then a list of items. Okay, too complex. Let's start from scratch and let's see what we find. I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna be okay here. We have enough room so you can see. I probably go here at the bottom of the screen so you can have a little bit more screen and you can see a little bit better. Well, the first thing that I need to do, I need to find a way to have the letters and the numbers together for those ones who have one space between both of them. And let's start from there. There is a function which is becoming one of my favorites now. Same thing that we have with table transform columns. Well, there is one function that is table transform rows. And what that function is going to do is going to transform the rows on this specific column, and that's exactly what I want to do. So I'm going to create a new step. I'm having my source here that is bringing the information from table 1. This is the table where we have all the information, the starting point. I'm going to click at Fx to create a new step, and from there I'm going to say equal table transform rows, this one. Open parentheses is asking me for a table. The table is coming from the previous step, which is the table that I'm seeing here. One column only, but it's still a table. Say comma. What is the transform as a function? Well, I'm going to say each. And I'm going to say that I want to split. Actually, I want to replace the space that I have in every single row. I want to replace that for nothing. So I'm going to provide the quotation marks, space. So actually, first, I need to tell Power Query text replace. Open parentheses. Where is the text coming from? It's going to come from my column string. So I need to provide that in square brackets. And I'm going to say string, comma. And what is the old text? Well, that's going to be the space. Open quotation marks, give the space, comma. And I want to replace it for nothing. So I provide the quotation marks without any information inside. So then I'm going to close parentheses. I'm going to say enter. I remove the blank spaces, but now everything is together. So I need to figure out a way how I'm going to split this, that I'm going to split it only by the letters. I want to keep the letter and the number together. And then the next letter and the number, I want to split that. I want to have it in a different line, let's say. Let's create a list that is going to give me, every single line is going to give me a letter and a number. And the next line, the next letter with the number, right? So to do that, let me just rename this step very quickly. I'm going to say this is going to be remove blank. Actually, let me rename this because I'm going to say this is going to be the split, because we're going to use a nested let. After the each, I'm going to press Control Enter. I'm going to say let. It's Shift Enter. And I'm going to provide the name of this variable. It will be X. And here, Shift Enter. Let's provide the next variable. We know that variable X, it will return this list. So after the closing parentheses in variable X, I'm going to press Shift Enter one more time. I'm going to say Y, that will be my next variable. That is equal to, and what do I want to do here? I need to split, and that's what I'm going to do, use the splitter by character transition. Open parentheses, and I need to provide, as I said, I need to provide two parameters. These parameters can be a list of items, or it can be a function that is going to return a value false or true. Well, it's so easy. And that's when I check one block from Chris Webb. I will show you that very shortly. So I'm going to open the curly brackets. And here I'm going to say that I need the 0 first. I want the list of numbers. I'm going to start from 0, and I want to continue until 9. So every time that you find 0, from 0 to 9, so you're going to start there, and then you're going to split when you find the following character, which will be the next list of items. I'm going to use the curly brackets. I'm going to say from A, capital A, excuse me, 2 dots to say it's coming from the letter A up to the letter Z. I'm going to say here. And I think that's it. I'm going to say Shift Enter just to provide the expression in. I'm done. I don't need to provide any other variable. And I want to get the value of variable Y. And what do I have? I have a function. And I have a function here because remember that split Splitter.Split text by character transition will give me a function, and that's what I'm getting here. I need to invoke that function. And the way to invoke a function is to open a parenthesis. So after the closing parenthesis in the Splitter.Split, then I'm going to open a parenthesis, and I need to provide the text that I need to be split. And that text will come from my previous variable, my variable x. That is all the lines with all the letters and numbers together. There are no spaces, right? So that's why I want to split this. And I'm gonna click at the check mark, and now I have a list of lists. And now you can see here, this list have those letters with the numbers. Okay. Let's see what else. Yes, Kasim, perfect. 6 a.m. I think I remember correctly, and I'm so glad I did. Awesome. Here is Alejandro. Hola, Alejandro. Buenas noches. Gracias por estar aquí. Excellent. Thank you, Alejandro, for being here. So now that I have this, one thing that you need to keep in mind when you need to split items with letters, numbers, or you have specific characters that you need to split information by, this is very useful. And look how easy it is instead of what I provided first. If I go back to my original and I go here to split, look at this part, how complex it looks, right? And just to return a value that is going to say true or false. At the end of the day, I have a character that is going to be a number, and I have a character that is going to be a letter. I could simplify this by providing that 0 to 9, and then by providing then my next parameter 8 to Z. And how did I get this? It's not because I know too much. No, it's because I'm going to duplicate this one. I'm going to go to original. I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to just go back here. I'm going to delete everything until the end. Delete. I'm going to go to the source. And how I got this is I right-click, split by column. Split column. And I split digit to non-digit. And I just wanted to get the code. So I just click there. And that's how I got the code for the Splitter.Split text by character transition. And that's where I got this part. And I start playing with that a little bit until I got the result that I needed. So that's how I got it. But it's just so, for me, it's not that friendly, let's say. So that's why I start digging and digging. And that's when I found this blog from Chris Webb. This is from 2019. And this is about splitting text by character transition in Power BI and Excel Power Query. And here it says it's February 12, 2019. And it gives us some explanations. But in this case, we have here a table where he has some words, let's say camel, case, date, and he wants to separate this by the capital letter, by the uppercase that we have here, right? So he wants camel in one column, case in another, dim in one column, date in the other. When I start looking at his code, I could see this function, and that's when I saw, like, oh, I can provide, in this case, is lowercase because that is the item that he wants to identify here, or better say here, it wants to identify the lowercase. Once that is identified and the next character is an uppercase, then is when this has to be split. So if I see this, I have the lowercase and the capital and the uppercase. That's how it's split, and this is just the name of the columns, my data 1 and my data 2, and that is the name here, my data 1 and my data 2. That's when I realized, like, oh, I should provide just a list of numbers instead of providing all of this, which is useful for Power Query, but for me, it's not as friendly, it's not that easy to understand. So what I did is I modified my code, and from here, I just provided the 0 to 9. Something that is very important, as you can see, there is an order. With the Cribs blog, there is an order that it needs to be a lowercase and then an uppercase to identify that transition and then split. In here, it's very important to have the numbers first and the letters later. If I'm gonna Control X this to cut, and then if I put this one after the letters, Control V, and I say, and click at the check mark there, so you can see that it splits in a different way. It split from the letter to the number. If there is a letter, a capital letter, and there is a number after, so split that, and the number goes to the next row. After that, the next number goes to the next line, and so on and so forth. That is very, you need to keep that in mind, that when you provide this, you need to provide it in the right order. So, comma, I'm going to put it back. I'm going to enter. Oh, another enter here at the check mark. And now if I do that, it's splitting as I need to be split. Okay? So something just to keep in mind. And let me just move this one over here so I can see everything is going okay. Perfect. Now I split this already. I can split that information also. I can leave the letter on one column and the number in another, but I'm in a list. I have a list here. First of all, I need to convert this into a table. So I'm going to hide this part. I hid the queries. I just click at this row and I did hide the queries. So I have my list here. Here where it says transform, I have an option that it says to table. I'm going to click there. And I just leave this as is. I don't need to make any changes. I just need to transform this into a table, which will have only one column. This one is correct. And I'm going to say to table. I can see my list inside. That is perfect. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do something very easy. I'm going to just click at the rows, do a rows that I have on top, facing different opposite side. And I'm going to select expand to new rows. Now I have those lists, those nested lists. Now I have them here. Every single row is inside of this column, right? I don't have more nested list. Excellent. So I expanded this and just let me rename this. I'm going to say expanded, enter. My next step is to split this column, and I can use two types of splitters. I can split by the digit number, which could be the first digit, right? So split after the first digit, or I can split again by that character transition. So if I right click to the column and I say split column and I say digit to non-digit and I click there, oh, that wasn't the one. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to right click again, split column. It was the other one from no digit to digit. There we go. Here I have the information split by transition, right? By character transition. And here I have the code that Power Query created for me. But now we know how to fix this. We don't need to fix it if we don't want it, but we can make it simpler. And my way to do it simpler will be open. Let me delete this. I'm going to open my curly brackets. I'm going to provide A to set. And let's press enter. I have exactly the same result. I don't need to have that long code. I can just have this short part for that long code that Power Query created for me. And I can rename the columns here. And this is going to be letters, because I think that's how the challenge is asking that the column is called. And this one, the second one, I'm going to leave it as column 1, because we still need to group this information, and we are going to change that anyways. We're not going to keep it. So I'm going to press enter. And now you see that here I have my column letters, and this is column 1. And I'm going to say this is split 2, enter. Now that I have this information, my next step, let me hide this part. I have this as text, and I know that the numbers are text because, first of all, I have this ABC on the top, and also all the numbers are aligned to the left. When the numbers are identified as numbers, they are aligned to the right, and here, where it says ABC, it can have a 1.2 or we can have a 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to click where it says ABC, and I'm going to select whole number. And now you see that I have a 1, 2, 3 here, and the numbers are aligned to the right. Perfect. This is change type, and I need it because I need to add all the values that have the same letter, right? So for example, here I have my A, I have this 8 number here, but I also have an A at the bottom, and I think I'm covering here. Here at the bottom, I have an A and I have an 11. So I need to add those two numbers for the same letter. And the easiest way to do, I'm going to right click. I'm going to select the letters column, right click, and I'm going to group by. I'm going to group by the column letters. I'm going to call this column, what did he say? I think he said amount. And operation will be sum. We're going to add the values that belong to every single letter. And the column where the values are coming from is column 1. I'm going to click there and I'm going to say, okay. Now I have the information as I need it. So that is so awesome. I group now, and my next step will be just to sort this information by in ascending order by the column letters. So I'm going to go click there. I'm going to click ascending, and now I have the result. Let me just go to home, close and load to. And I'm going to put that one in here. I'm going to only create connection. I'm going to say, okay. And from here, I'm going to just, I think it was table 1. Right click on table 1. That is our query. And I'm going to say load to. I'm going to create a table. I want that table right here. So we can see that is quite similar to here. I'm going to say, okay. Oh, it was so close. Let me just add a column. Perfect. I press Control plus to add that column. I select it and I press Control plus. And actually, let me move this one a little bit over here. And I'm going to move the table there. So we can see that we get exactly the same result than the challenge asked for. And here we have, oh, it wasn't amount, it was quantity. So, but here we have exactly the same amount that the challenge was asking for. Let me just change the column for quantity. I'm going to double click to my query, table 1. And from there, Control C plus, was in the group, or it was in the split 2, right here. No, it was in the group. And I put amount here. Here is where I name that column. So I'm going to say instead of amount will be quantity. Check mark. And now it says quantity. I'm going to go home, close and load. And now I have the column is called quantity. Okay. That's all that I have for you. Okay. I think I really enjoy these challenges because they really help me to learn a lot of new functions that I never thought about it. You see other solutions too, and then you learn how they use those functions that you never heard about it. So very, very, very helpful. So I extremely recommend that you take a look and participate. You don't need to post your answer if you don't want to, but just the matter that you're trying to solve the challenge is very helpful. Okay. So let me stop sharing my screen. And let me see. Thank you so much. I'm very glad that you like it, Michael. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you. And thank you, Raimundo. Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you find it useful. You never know when you need to split information, split text by character transition is really helpful, and it comes when you less expect it. So it's good to have this in the back of our minds just to make sure that we have the tools or we know how to look for those tools, right? Excellent. Thank you so much, Raimundo. Cheers to Brazil. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. Excellent. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week. I'm not too sure if I'm going to be able to make it next week, but if I don't make it live, I post a video. Okay? So thank you so very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.